Be all that you can be. Remember that commercial? Remember that commercial where they used to sing, be all that you can be? That's right, it was for the Army. Remember that commercial? How they had that commercial that said, be all you can be? Remember that? It was goofy. It was ridiculous. It was. It was a commercial for the Army. Or they were, back in the 80s, they would always sing, be all that you can be. And remember, they always used to show it during, they always used to play that commercial during American Top 40 with Casey Kasem. They did. And I remember how there were like several different versions of it. You know, as the years went on, all throughout the 80s and early 90s, that was like, they used to keep coming out with different versions of that song. Remember that? And it was built on different themes. And I remember one of my favorites was one of the earlier ones. And this is back when I was about 10 years old when they used to have this. One of the earlier versions of that song is the one that started out, "You're reaching deep inside you." And I remember every time that commercial came on the radio, I used to do this. They would say, "You're reaching deep inside you," and I would go, look, I'm reaching deep inside of me. See, I'm reaching deep inside of me. You're reaching deep inside you. But that was one of them. That was one of them for the Army. And I remember Get an Edge on Life. Remember that? Get an edge on life in the Army. Remember that? And I remember in high school, I remember people used to go around saying, get an edge on life. And they always used to do that in high school. And I remember that was also when they had those, another one was Find Your Future. But I remember the Get an Edge on Life. And I remember that in high school they would hand out like those book covers. And this is at Brossard. And Brossard, they would throw a fit if you didn't use the book covers. They would fine people. Like they give us textbooks, like school books, and they make us use like put the book covers on them. And every time we were caught with a book uncovered, they would fine us like $1 or 50 cents or something like that. But because they were afraid that our books would get ruined, which they did anyway, because people were always tearing up the books there. People were always like throwing them on the floor and kicking them down the hall and stuff. Like, you know how like when you put a book on the floor and kick it down the hall, like on a hard floor, you know what a big scene it makes. People would do that. People would like kick the books down the hall. I remember one of them, they had covers from the U.S. Army, and one of them said "Get an Edge on Life" in like big white letters on the cover. It said "Get an Edge on Life." And there's one kid in one of my classes. He took like a yellow colored pencil or crayon or marker or something. He colored in where it said "edge," the word "edge." He colored it in yellow where it said "edge." And the school had an absolute fit when he did that. Another thing people did was they put the covers on inside out, so the blank side would be on the outside. Remember that? And oh man, would the school have a fit. Oh, the school would have a fit if you had the blank side on the outside. So a lot of people like to put the blank side on the outside so they could like draw their own pictures on it and stuff. And the school would just have a fit, and the school would say, the Army paid for those covers. You're depriving the Army of its message by not having the. They said you're depriving the Army of its message by not having the outside of the cover showing. Because I mean, so what we would do, like if they gave us covers, I'd put them on the out instead of the Army side showing, I'd have the blank side showing, and the school got real mad. They said, "What are you, some kind of communist? That you don't have the armies? That you're not turning your possessions into a advertisement for the army?" But they used to say that at Brossard, and I remember they always used to have those radio commercials during American Top 40. And why were they running commercials during American Top 40 anyway? Because if you join, that's not the sort of, that's not the, because if you join the army, then you're probably going to end up in a situation where you're not going to be able to listen to American Top 40, like a war or something. Like if you're out there on the battlefield, what are they going to do? Are they going to stop the war? Because that's, even though American Top 40 is heard on Armed Forces Radio around the world. So, I mean, what are you going to do if you're in a war or something and American Top, and it's time for American Top 40? Are you just going to stop the war? Are they going to say, American Top, it's time for American Top 40. Let's stop the war for the next 4 hours so we can hear American Top 40. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Let's stop the war for next 4 hours because for American Top 40. That's not how wars work. But that's what they did during for the commercials for the army. And you're reaching deep inside you. See, that's an illusion what I just did. It made me look like I was putting my entire hand down my esophagus, but really it was just an illusion. So, remember Doug Henning always used to say that? It's just an illusion. My next illusion, I'm gonna do this. Remember how? But he was cool. So anyway, that's the story of. Well, yeah, I've got more email here. Next week I might not be able to do an episode of this fine webcast because next week I have to spend all day getting ready for the St. Louis Road Meet. That's coming up on Saturday March 15th. That's right, I'm going to go to the St. Louis Road Meet. And I have to leave Friday night. I'm going to go down to the bus station on Friday night. So that's the story of the old U.S. Army commercials.